Hi everyone, I just wanted to come in here and add an extra lecture to this complete guide to iPhone photography course to show you a feature which I know a few of you asked me about, and that is the new Pro lineup of iPhones that has the 3 different camera lenses. So these include the ultra-wide camera lens. Now some of the newer iPhones also have just 2 lenses, but which includes the ultra-wide camera lens. That's because you don't have the telephoto lens, but we'll come to that in a moment. So what I wanted to do, I wanted to show you how to use this ultra-wide camera lens effectively in the best possible way, but also show you something really brilliant and something that works really well, and that is night mode on these Pro lineup of iPhones. So at the moment in the United Kingdom, we are still under some COVID restrictions, so I'll go out and film and show you these things the best I can, but hopefully really highlight these 2 new exciting features on these wonderful new phones. So here goes! So first of all, let's get familiar with our camera app with these new features added on. So as you can see there on the right hand side, we've got 3 options here. You've got 1, 2 and 0.5. So this is nice and easy. If you're on the Pro camera, these are the 3 different lenses. So number 1 is just the normal one, or we might call it the wide angle lens. Number 2 is the telephoto, so it's 2 times zoom, it means it's zoomed in. And 0.5, it means the opposite, it's zoomed out to less than 1, and that's the ultra wide lens. So you may have 1 and 2, or you may have 1 and 0.5, or if you've got a Pro lineup of phones, you're going to have all 3. So let's just go through those now then. So this is a 0.5 one. I'm at a viewpoint here in the city of Lincoln, and even though it's a beautiful viewpoint, when it's in the ultra wide, it's actually not that brilliant. So you might think the ultra wide one's good for panoramic photos, but it's not always the case, because it just puts too much into the actual composition. If you go to just the normal one, the normal wide angle lens, which is number 1, you can see here nicely a bit more of the city. And if you go into number 2, then you get the full zoomed in view there, the optical zoom. So that's the 3 different lenses and how to work them. So the 2 is the telephoto, 1's the wide angle, and 0.5 is the ultra wide angle. And depending on what your iPhone's got, you'll just see those displayed there. So this is the icon here, which is the night mode button. When it's white like that, it means it's turned off. But more often than not, when you are in a dark situation, it will turn itself on by itself, as we can see here. So white's off and yellow is on. And then we're introduced to this button here, look, where we can see a time, 10 seconds. Now 10 seconds means that that's the exposure length of the frame the photo's going to take. It's going to be 10 seconds long. So that means you've got to hold your camera really, really still for 10 seconds. That's going to let in the maximum amount of light possible into the lens and then create this wonderful nighttime photograph. So basically on the iPhone itself, it's the software on the camera that detects how long it's going to expose it for, a maximum amount. So that 10s is the maximum amount it'll allow you to do it. Now Apple will allow you to take a photo between 1 and 30 seconds, but you don't have a choice over the maximum. So when it says 10s there, you can actually adjust that dial there on the right to between 1 and 10 seconds, but you can't go any more than 10 seconds. So as I move the camera around now then, I'm just going to move it up and down a little bit and zoom out, just so it lets different amounts of light in, and as you'll see when I do that, it'll change the exposure length, and I think the best one we can get here is 27 seconds. Let's give that a try now. And to do that, so you just simply press the shutter button, and as you can see, when you do that, it goes completely black first of all, and then the light actually fades back into the scene, and that's when you get the full night mode. So as you can see there on the right hand side, this timer is now going down, so it goes from 27 seconds right down to 0. As I can see at the top, it says a hold still. So if you are taking an exposure of this length, then I will recommend using a tripod or some kind of gimbal to hold it still. But when it's reached those 27 seconds, it then exposes the photograph, and then it takes it. Let's see those results now. So here you have it. This is the result. And as you can see, it's taking a nice photograph there. Perhaps maybe in the background it is a bit blown slightly still, but say that those block of houses there in the middle, let's say they were the focus of your photograph, they're actually quite clear. One thing you'll notice as well, though, of course, is that when you are in night mode, and it is very dark when I took this photograph, there was a street light behind me. I couldn't see my own shadow, but as you can see, you can see shadows and things. So it really does expose a lot of light into the frame, even more than you can actually see with your own eyes. Now here's another photograph I want to show you as well. This one perhaps just a bit clearer, but again a really good example here of night mode on the iPhone looking at a viewpoint. So now I'm going to just move on again now to another little area, and I'll just show you some of these tips and tricks again. So here we are just a few hundred metres down the road in a place called Castle Hill in Lincoln. So there's the old Norman castle behind us and there's Lincoln Cathedral in front of us. Lincoln Cathedral used to have a spire on the top, which made it the tallest building in the world for many years. Obviously not anymore with modern day buildings, but it's got a lot of history behind it. And also, just very quickly, if you wonder why it's in purple, it was lit up on this particular evening I was filming this because it was a census day in the UK. So in the UK, every 10 years there's a census, and it was just lit up to celebrate, or perhaps to remind residents to fill in their census. But I've come in here though because unlike the previous view, which was just a view in a distance, we've now got a bit more buildings in the foreground as well. So again, we can just quickly go through some of these principles again, looking at different angles of the camera and also night mode, and just quickly show you with a bit more detail there in the foreground. So here goes. So here we are, we're zoomed in 2 times at the moment. We can take a photograph like that. And now night mode's kicked in, we've got 6 seconds here. So let's just take that shot for 6 seconds. And again, you can see it holds still again. If you do happen to move your camera, you'll see some crosshairs of where you are now and where you was when you originally started the exposure, which is quite handy. So that takes a nice shot there. We'll zoom out now to the normal lens +1, and that creates a lovely atmospheric shot there. I love that. A lot of detail, a lot of light in there. That's quite a nice photograph. As you can see, as we move out to the ultra wide again, it's not so great. It's not really designed for this. There's not enough light in the frame, not enough interest or anything to actually focus on in the composure. So that's just the 3 different lenses again at work in the same position, and you can see the 3 different results you get from using those lenses. So I've just walked a few meters further forward now then, just to show you can also use these different lenses and night mode when you're in portrait mode. So far we've done landscape, haven't we? But I've walked further forward now, getting a nice composition again with a tall cathedral behind it. So you can start in zoomed in there on ×2. You can work all the way back to the wide angle camera lens, and this may be a good time to actually use it, because what it will do now is it'll do the wide angle from top to bottom rather than from left to right. So you can get the full scope in there. We can go through again. As you can see, night mode also continues to work, even in portrait mode. You can get some good shots this way as well. So you can use it both in landscape and also in portrait mode. I just wanted to show you as well these lenses in the daytime, because we've just seen nighttime so far. So here we are with our scene in front of us. So we've got some concrete steps going down this public footpath. We've got some bushes and trees and things to the left and right. We've actually got quite a nice viewpoint as well. Again, where we can see for miles and miles, and then quite an angry looking sky. So when we're in the ultra wide 0.5, we can see it gives a nice focal point there in the middle of these steps going down. And as we go through the different lenses to the wide angle lens, again, you'll just get a bit more detail perhaps in there. Maybe lose a little bit actually in the focal point. And then in the telephoto at ×2. Again, it's just a different perspective. So we're stood in the same position. It's 3 different lenses, and you can see we're getting 3 different shots, 3 different compositions. So it really depends actually what you're trying to shoot and what your subject is. If we just go left here, perhaps just to get the viewpoint, we can just demonstrate that again. So in the ultra wide, it works better in daytime, as you'll notice. A nice panoramic viewpoint. We can go through the lenses again to the 1, and then onto the 2 in a second. Again, just get a different viewpoint. So it really depends what your subject is, what you're trying to shoot. But as you'll notice, as I keep saying really, these 3 lenses give 3 very different photographs. So it's good to choose the right one. If you're ever in doubt, just shoot all 3. It makes it easier later on when you're looking through your photographs. So one little final trick here, and perhaps the most famous trick of the ultra-wide camera lens, is one that realtors use, or estate agents, whatever they're called in your particular country. But someone who tries to sell property and takes really good photographs, you'll notice they always look really good, and they all seem to fill the room and make the rooms look really big. Well, this is the trick. They use an ultra-wide camera lens. So here we are in this stairwell here, in this residential block, and you can see on the normal 1x zoom, the wide-angle lens, the normal lens, this is the kind of photograph you get, which might be the kind of photograph you get when you just take a picture inside your home. We'll go to the number 2, and of course that doesn't look very good at all, does it? It's just zoomed in too much. But when we go to the ultra wide angle lens, well, there you go. You get the full picture, and it makes that stairwell look really big. And that's what these realtors, estate agents do. They take an ultra wide camera lens and then go into properties and take photographs using that. It makes the rooms look really big. So one little pro tip for you there: if you've got the ultra wide camera lens, that's what you want to do. That's what it's there for as well. So to finish this lecture off, I just want to show you a few photographs I've taken throughout the last few weeks, trying out these night mode and these different camera lenses. So a few from the evening we've seen in the video so far, and really all these highlight here just really how good night mode is. So again, some real crystal clear photographs there. It's difficult to put it in perspective if you was actually there with me at the time, but it was much darker than this, trust me, and yet they come out with a lot of lighting, a lot of atmosphere as well, and quite a lot of clarity. So it really does work well in night mode. In these next few photographs here, we're down at a country park called Hartsoe now in Lincoln, and again in the ultra wide camera lens here, even though we've got this lovely red sky, the actual photograph looks a bit dull, doesn't it? When we go into the wide angle lens, again a bit more detail, bit better, but perhaps not great. And then we go to the telephoto lens, wow, what a picture we get here. So again, really just to highlight the fact again that I'm still in the exact same location. I've took 3 different photographs using 3 different lenses, and one's reasonably dull, the first one, and this last one here is beautiful. So again, it really just shows you when using these lenses to line up the right camera that you want to use for the subject that you want to show. So just to show you that same principle again, but this time when it's dark in night time, again the wide angle lens, the ultra wide angle lens doesn't let much lighting at all. It gets better with the wide angle lens, and then even better in the telephoto lens. So again, it just depends what you want to shoot. I'm really mixing up, I suppose, the different lenses and night mode in this lecture, but again it just highlights to use the right mode and the right lens to take the right shot. And again, just to show you those photographs I took earlier on in the stairwell, so we've got the ultra wide, and then the wide and the telephoto, and really the ultra wide one there looks the best, doesn't it? So to just wrap this lecture up, I just want to show you 3 more photographs and then introduce something new. So back to the comparison of normal mode and night mode. We've got 2 photographs here taken when it was very dark. The normal photo here, so you can see how dark it is, but then see how it is in night mode. Look, all that light has been drawn in. So I'll just flick between the 2 for a second, and it really gives a good comparison here. I've taken this shot in the gimbal, so it's exactly in the same location as you can see. And as we flick between normal mode and night mode, you can really see what these wonderful cameras on these iPhones are doing, drawing all this extra light in with these longer exposures and creating some great photographs. Now at the very end here as well, I want to show you this final photograph, just to show you another concept with night mode, and that's astrophotography. So if you're into your stars and planets and things, you can get some good photographs of the stars. Just remember, the maximum exposure length is 30 seconds, so you're not going to see any trails of stars or anything like that, but it really can highlight it. If you've got a really starry night, in night mode, you actually see those stars in a photograph, where, you know, just a few years ago on another phone or just a normal camera, you really wouldn't have done. So really, again, another good example of night mode and the advantage and the advancements that Apple are making here with these cameras. So it really is good. So that now concludes our lecture here on night mode and the 3 camera lenses. So hopefully you found that useful if you have a newer iPhone or one of the Pro phones. And please go out now and give that a try and take some great photographs. And thanks for listening.